talking about this for a while. Oh, sorry. Please record. Yep, good. Is it has to do with county engagement. Um, I think in the past, and I'm young to the DOC for sure. I'm not young, but young to the DOC is kind of the progression of how we moved into now in 2023, the law that went into effect with the funding formula. Along with that came the requirement for co county advisory boards, probation advisory boards, as well as the comprehensive plans that are going to be due. And we're also just full acknowledgement. I think we're seeing some CPO counties consider, what does this mean for them, right? And so, what does this mean for, um, is this going to be a long-term MACPO, or is it a short-term MACPO? And after going to county boards and seeing what I would consider as a lack of understanding of the Department of Corrections, lack of, I would go as far as the appreciation of how the work that we do. I think a number of us started to talk about like how does this, yep, we need to do advisory boards, we need to do comp plans, but how do we really engage counties? How do we really develop those relationships? How is it that we pull those um, advisory boards together to really educate and help um, like clarify what it is that we do, and especially in those, in some of those awkward situations where we have a county probation office, we might be doing business differently as well. So, um, and so I just wanted to really put this on the on the agenda each time, is to really kind of highlight a story, or just open it up to anybody who has something on their mind as far as uh, an experience with the county board that went well, or an engagement that idea that they have. The thought isn't quite in my mind fully formed yet, but moreover, like how can we support each other and give each other ideas of how we move forward in that space, and develop engagement with our county partners. So, and Dana writes, Renee, would you share your board story? And so, yeah, I'd love to hear that if you're willing.
Well, excuse me, it wasn't a pleasant board experience. So if you want a positive one, it wasn't real positive.
Your response was great.
Oh, maybe the response, well, the meeting was not pleasant. But long story short, I presented my community action plan. And then we went into detail on specific programs for Winona County. So this was a continuation of one of the meetings. It was a separate meeting that they asked me to come back for. And we went through a lot of data. I mean, they were nitpicking stuff. We got to the part on sex offenders, and the county board chair, like, just did I don't know, a 180 and kind of threw me for a loop. He said his comment to me. Now, mind you, this is a public meeting, so there were other people in there, and there were people on Zoom. On Zoom, he said, "Let's let's be real here, Renee. These sex offenders that you're referring to are just scum, scum, and more scum." And kind of just threw me for a loop, and I just stood there because I was like, "Oh my God." I I kind of took a couple breathers, because what I wanted to say was not real appropriate either, and not appropriate for a public meeting. But I just stepped back and I said, "Well, his name is Dwayne, who, mind you, he's an educator, and that's his full-time position." So that's why I was even more taken back by this. I said, "Well, Dwayne, I understand that we all make mistakes, every one of us, and not all of us are on supervision. And regardless of if we're on supervision or we're not, we all need to be treated as human beings because we all make mistakes and we should all be given the opportunity to change our behaviors. And I would invite you to join me and my sex offender agent to meet some of these people. And he respectfully declined, but he did say, you've got a point. I mean, I went into more detail about people making mistakes and, pretty sure that every one of us in that room have made mistakes before, and not everybody's been caught or not everybody's been placed on supervision for those mistakes.
Yeah, right on.
And that we are all humans and there's no reason to be calling people names. And so it was the other commissioners started clapping and
Oh
he
my
said,
word.
yeah. And the county attorney was in there and she started clapping and she's like, and they were all kind of smiling. And he said, all right, that's fair. Point taken. He said, but I'm going to respectfully decline your offer. And I said, that's okay. But my offer stands, and my offer stands for any one of you in this room that would like to come and hang out with me and hang out with the agents and meet some real human beings and people that are making positive, good changes in their life. So I was pretty taken back by it. And I was taken back by the fact that, I mean, and he was very animated. It was like he was very angry. His voice was very loud. And
Hmm.
I kind of wanted to call him a few names myself. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, it was quite interesting. I guess I never expected it from him. There's a couple other commissioners. The one that wants us to have a chain gang in Winona. I expected it from her, but she was the one that was clapping first. So I was kind of like, oh, I don't know where this went, but um yeah, so it was kind of interesting and it threw me for a big loop. I'm not one that I don't know. I got to think about some responses and sometimes it's harder to think of the more appropriate response because some other things wanted to come out of my mouth at that point. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. So
When it's almost like it 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 sheds light on this fact that not everybody knows what we do.
nope.
Not everybody understands our role. And and I just think it's a wonderful situation where you could have gotten really, I mean, you were clearly, I mean, everyone would have been upset, but what you did with that is you turned it into an invitation to understand. And so that's well, it's
I will
amazing.
tell you, one of the other commissioners did reach out to me and actually came in and she sat with me for probably an hour and a half to learn more about what we do. She did not want to, shadow with the agents and stuff, but she wanted to sit down. And then at the end, she did ask me, she said, what can we as a board do to help you in your position, Renee?
Holy
Um,
cow.
so that was pretty powerful. So, I told her about all the new programs that we have and what they can do to support us. So it was pretty cool. And it was also interesting to see his face when I said, the most compliant clients, in my opinion, are the sex offenders. Honestly, they don't want to draw attention to themselves. I mean, that's just, my opinion when I told him that. And he kind of thought that was interesting. He didn't understand that. And I'm like, do you think they want to draw attention to themselves? Because they don't. So he was kind of taken back by that. And so that's why I said, why don't you come and learn more about what we do? Because a lot of these people don't know what we do and they just think that we just lock them up and throw away the key and we don't want to work with them on change and all the stuff, the good stuff that we're doing. And actually, when I talked to him, said, you know how many of these clients have never heard how good they're doing and how wonderful it is that they have a job and that they completed treatment or something little and simple as, hey, you attended your kids' conferences at school for the first time. That's pretty impressive. Um, so I would like for them to come and I'm not going to give up on working on this board person to hang out with me and some of the agents. I'm going to keep pushing it. So we'll see where it goes. He might tell me to go, you know, pack sand, but we're gonna keep trying. So
That's amazing. So yeah, so I was thank you so much. That such good work there. But it just highlights this disconnect. And if we're going to represent ourselves the way that we, accurately, we're going to have to convene meetings. We're going to have to reach out to people. Not that you're not. I was certainly knowing. I'm sure Tessa can attest to this. I was no shining example of reaching out and doing county engagement myself. So I kind of left her with that task, quite honestly. But I would just like to highlight during this time, if it makes sense, to talk about stories like this, or this is how I'm going to form my board. This is how I'm going to engage this person or whatever. And it can be really informal. I'd love to have some feedback if you'd want to formalize it a little bit, but just keep it like this for a bit until we have some direction with things. If that makes sense. Just add some energy to county engagement. So
I
thoughts
had,
about that?
I had a really different thing happen recently, which has never happened in years, but um, I had a person running for commissioner come and spend an hour with me.
Really?
Wanted to understand facets of being a commissioner, but they also wanted to understand really what the department did. So that was the first time I've ever had that as they prepared to run,
Mm-hmm.
just to understand, which, that's just been different. I've never had that happen.
Should start hosting debates, huh?
Well, yeah, pretty soon, I think. I just thought that was interesting because I do present at the board and we've had recent talks even in the budget. And so this person comes, who wants to run and asked to meet all the divisions, but also wanted to understand really what we did as part of the county. So I thought that was kind of interesting. That was the first time.
Well, did they get elected, Deb?
Did that person get elected? I don't know. I never looked.
Twitter. See if your tutelage helped.
Oh, I don't know if it was my tutelage. Could have been, no, she wasn't running against anyone. I don't know. But I just found it interesting that wanting to know before you run. So I'll have to go look now, Jake.
That's awesome.
I forgot.
So I just want to kind of piggyback from, I think, the importance of sharing these stories and what's working, what's maybe, kind of where, hey, we presented this and this is where they really got hung up on, and how can we maybe better strategize on how we deliver certain information to folks. But some of you in the North, I've shared, Supervisor, that I'm in the Senior Leadership Institute. And part of that is I have to do a project at the end of this. So one of the projects is that I'm settling on is a community engagement policy and procedure specific to how we create and develop our advisory boards. Who makes up those advisory boards? How do we identify the right people? The demographics in that particular engagement. What do we do during these advisory boards? Et cetera, as well as, on top of that, just outright community engagement, specific to how, schools, our community members, how do we get the word out, about probation? Because I think, the joke is, how many movies have you seen that are focused around probation? I think there's one, Double Jeopardy, with Tommy Lee Jones and, I can't remember her name, but it's always about prisons. So what I'd like to do is pull together some supervisors in to help craft, and Ashley Judd, thank you, to help kind of identify and craft, how do we want this policy to look, to provide you all with some clear guidance and structure. And then even going beyond, we've already started some within the Knowledge Center, resource directory, et cetera, that we can continue to build off of, that provides you kind of a grab and go and modify whatever, how you want it to structure, the education delivery. Here's the thing, folks, we are really behind the eight ball, especially with our CPO partners, because they're always out front. We're always kind of behind. We're in the shadows. How do we get out of that? So there is going to be how do we, work together with our CPO partners. At the same time, is that we shouldn't have to be behind them at the same time. We should be out front as well. What information do we share? What type of data do we share? How can we as management get you that data? How do we explain that data? So a lot of things that I want to make sure that we are intentional on, and at the same time, you don't feel like you're compelled to always take a back seat because that CPO director says, "Well, no, the board doesn't want to hear about that. The board doesn't want to." And perhaps, yep, they may know that board, but at the same time, that just continues us, being, in lack for better words, irrelevant really in the county, and we become um, overshadowed by the other county agencies. So, when you see and hear some of these really fantastic stories, and Mark, I know, you and I have talked a lot about kind of the back and forth within a particular county about where you see some of the stakeholders going, I like your information better than that information. How do we make sure that what we provide is clear and transparent, shows it and it tells a story, and it's not just oh, look at all these cases we have to have. We need more money versus here's all the things we're doing and engaging in how we're providing very effective supervision within the community. So I think there's just a great deal of things that we can dial in specifically within the policy and procedures that can help us all with the best approach, and ensuring that we're putting this information and putting our best self in front of those key stakeholders.
Thank you.
I would share that Bloomie was kind of my nemesis back in the day, and way back in the Jill Carlson days, we weren't really encouraged to go to county boards and all of those things. It was actually discouraged in a lot of ways. And I remember during that time, he was like, nope, we got to get there, we got to go. And so he would push me to go. And it was not I wasn't excited to go early on because I felt uncomfortable talking about, where we're at. Like if I'm in Tessa's shoes right now, I may be a little bit more uncomfortable and I don't know what to expect. And I don't know the county commissioners and those kinds of things. And so with his pushing, I finally just have a standing twice a year. I go to the Clearwater and the Beltrami County boards, and I don't ask for anything. I'm just there telling them who I am, telling them what we do, talking about the great things that have happened over the course of that time, whether it's a year or 6 months or whatever it might be. And what I found is the more frequently they see me, where I'm not asking for any money, I'm not asking them to do anything, it's gone much better. And so that when I do ask, like I think I asked Beltrami for a vehicle 2 years ago, nobody batted an eye. And they were like, oh yeah, we know she's doing all of these things. Here you go. I didn't have to beg. I didn't have to fight for anything. And so I would say that's been the benefit. I also would acknowledge that I also don't have CPO on my backyard too. So that's not something that I have to, feel like I'm fighting against or have to be as good as or better than or all of that stuff too. So I would just offer that.
Thank you. Good.
Yeah, and so like I just want to share. Tess and I connected this morning, and her when she presented a comp plan in Kanabec County, I think it was very focused on how many UAs are you doing, how many, and I think you're going to get that. At the same time, we can provide that data, but we should provide and why it's important and what we do with individuals and what is it that is not really supervision. So how do we tie some of that? How do we tie some of that into that narrative? Obviously kind of meeting the county where they're at specifically with that information and say, hey, we want to know how many arrests you do. And yeah, okay. However, here's what's changing the behavior. Here's what we're going to, how we do that. And here's, the research, et cetera. And how do we kind of finesse that? So you can't go in guns ablazing EBP sometimes. You have to kind of slowly spoon feed EBP and the principles that we're integrating into work. So what does that look like? So obviously, is it being in front of the board quarterly probably might be too much for some counties, where maybe twice a year you can carve out 15 minutes of their time, not to ask for stuff like Trish said. It's like we want to tell you all here's some positive and here's some data and good results in how we're reducing recidivism and how we're lowering, the jail costs, et cetera. So I would like, if anybody is interested, reach out to me if you would like to be part of crafting this policy, because I think it's really important. Your voices are there because this is your work, really. I mean, this is kind of takes a lot of your effort. So what makes sense for all of you? So please reach out to me, and I'd like to put together a working group that we can do and start kind of shelling out that policy, and then I'd like to maybe, who else can we engage with specifically, as whether there's impacted parties, maybe some county administrators that would be interested in providing some feedback from their perspective, knowing what makes sense, what works for county commissioners. But yeah, I really would like to pull together a working group, and yeah, please reach out. Be happy.
Awesome. Thank you. We also in the is Danelle, maybe you know where the excuse me, where the PowerPoints are. So I think we created, I don't know, 4 or 5 PowerPoints in the Eichstätt in Knowledge Center for you to use. Take them, make them your own, change them, look at them, don't use them. I just wanted there to be a kind of a repository for us to be able to, like, okay, if Trish makes this really cool presentation, like, hey, maybe I'll share it with everybody else, and it's maybe applicable, maybe not, but at least it's an idea or someplace to start so that we can all kind of help each other. So, all right, turning the corner to the next order of business, which is a case planning training. I just kind of wanted to revisit the training plan and then move into the district's DS for IS meeting discussion and some thoughts that that implementation team had, and I kind of want to vet that with y'all. So Willie and Rachel and Sarah and I will be doing the virtual and the in-person uh, trainings. I think most everybody's going to be doing that except for I should make sure I have everybody straight here, but I think Jared and Kelly will be doing
And
the
Chanel.
actual training, and Chanel, thank you, sorry, we'll be doing the training with the training group. There's a train the trainer that's going on right now as well. So the rest of us will be going through the training in our own cohort, so to speak. So Rachel, do you have anything more about the training itself?
Just a couple quick things. We did, just to give you guys a glimpse at this, the time that it's taken on your all schedules is a bit longer than it would take for agents going through. We added about an hour to each day because we wanted to make sure that you all had enough time to ask questions and sort of be able to come at it from a district supervisor lens. So just know that as you think about, like, oh, my agent's going through this too, what you guys are doing is a bit longer in hours, just for that purpose, because we wanted to give you enough time for that. And the other thing I wanted to mention is that probably some of you have heard Stephanie Bulow, formerly from Scott County, is coming to DOC. She starts here on November 20th. So she's going to pop in, probably observe some of them, and then she's also going to come to the in-person day in St. Cloud so that you guys can kind of put a face to the name and meet Stephanie. Third thing, I'm trying my best not to let Carter be your trainer for most of this. It'll be me and Sarah and Willie. You're welcome. So I don't know if anyone has specific questions, but I'm happy to answer anything. I'm put a note on my calendar for the week of Thanksgiving to get materials out to you all so that you have like your participant manuals and all of that ahead of time. We're just making a couple edits in the meantime, so I want to have those ready before we send it out to you. So
is it possible, Rachel, to speak a little bit about, I think I just copied the topics that we had. So a couple say tape. So if you see that, I don't know if you wanted to speak to that at all, just to kind of clarify what we'll be doing on the days that they say tape.
oh, have you guys not talked about the tapes yet, Carter?
Whoops, nope.
Wow, I
not.
didn't even see that bus coming. Holy shit.
I thought we did we not? Okay, maybe not. All right,
Okay, so
all you.
I feel like this is punishment for me right now. So to give you guys a similar experience to how your agents go through this training, we wanted to make it as similar as possible and having you guys also do recordings. So now you're really testing my memory, trying to remember which tapes were going to happen, which day.
I can remember.
Okay, lay it on us.
So there's two audios that are generally in case planning training. And now this isn't you, but I'm just so in a case planning training, they train, and then we ask them to do an audio of an engagement, normative feedback, or focus and alignment, and then we train, and then have them do ideally like an ongoing skill practice where they're actually doing skill building with a client. What we'd be asking you to do is a little different. We'd ask you to do the first section or one of those audios, an engagement, normative feedback, or focus and alignment with one of the tools that's on the that's on the roadmap. And then the second audio, we're hoping to hear you coach one of your staff doing one of those audios. Did I remember that correctly, folks? Is that correct?
I think so. I'm just putting the dates in the chat too. So the tape of you doing the appointment with a client, that first tape, we'll review that on January 15th. And so when you come, we break into groups and we do just tape reviews, peer circle tape reviews. And then we have a training the next day, and then we take a longer break, and the tape of you coaching your staff is the one that's due on February 6th. And it's a similar format as we just break up into little coaching circles and review those together. So it may behoove you sooner than later to identify a client, someone that your staff is working with, or get somebody newly assigned to you or something, so that depending on what appointment you want to practice with them, you can kind of get yourself there with that client. Because doing like a PSI or doing an assessment, like we don't want to hear that. Like, we know that you can do an assessment, we know that you can do a PSI, we know that you can do an intake. Like, we want it to be an actual engagement appointment with an intervention, or focus and alignment with an intervention, like the actual kind of meat and potatoes of it. Now what questions? I feel like someone gave a piece of advice that you can flick someone off at any meeting. Was that you, Sarah? This is
So I have a question. So is it possible to just kind of outline that in an email to us? Because I'm just trying to wrap my brain a little bit around like how I want to plan for that. Because I would agree with you, and I appreciate the heads up. So I have some time to do that, not just a quick month.
100%.
Yeah, I've got it right here. I'll just put it right in the chat right now.
It can be in the notes also.
Okay.
The
Okay,
schedule
so
at least.
what is the point of doing this with a client? Again, I mean, so I know what my agents feel like, because I already know what they feel like. I guess I get doing it, coaching with my staff, but I guess I'm not following what the importance of doing this with a client is. And maybe I'm the only one that thinks that way, so whatever. But I guess
Well,
if I'm coaching staff, I would see how that's beneficial for me to be doing it with a staff. I don't need to know how my staff feels when I already know how they feel.
there's a few things. The first one is one that you mentioned, right? And it's to come alongside. There's a lot of, if we're talking about implementation science, one of the major ways in which we can break through that barrier of I want you to do this is if we're willing to do it ourselves. I think a lot of the vernacular or the research is around kind of a team-based leadership style, or coming alongside, or kind of those supervisors that are kind of on the cutting room floor, or whatever you want to call it, the shop floor, working alongside. I think I heard I heard Tessa tell me a really, really awesome story about, and I won't make her do it and put her on the spot, but if it test me, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you had someone who was not willing to do or was digging their heels in or really reluctant to do an audio. And I think your response to her was, let's do it together. I'll do one. And her response was, okay, because it's pretty tough to say no when your supervisor or somebody says, oh, let's do it together. I'll come alongside and do it together. The last is, and I'm not saying that folks don't understand how to do this, but it's really, really difficult to coach if you're not doing the skill yourself or have experienced it. I mean, the we can read processes, we can listen to them, but unless we're able to experience and show others that we're learning alongside of them and that we're lifelong learners, there's just ton of research that suggests that that works pretty well. Did I accurately surmise that, Tessa? I'm not sure. You had any more to add about that? So,
Good job.
all right. So, and then the next subject would be, are there any more questions about that itself, the training and how that will work?
There's a quick question just
Oh,
from Chanel. What do myself, Kelly, and Jared do for the second day of district supervisor meeting in December? Do we only attend day one of that meeting?
yeah, I think so. What do you,
I'm sorry, I was typing. I didn't hear the question.
yeah, it doesn't make sense for you to come to a training when you're already going to a different training. Because
Oh,
that whole day will be just training. So, yep, that makes sense. Thanks for
yeah,
that.
thanks for asking that. I did clarify that with Carter that there was nothing else that you guys were going to be missing on that day in St. Cloud. So when I told him what I wanted to happen and he said yes, like a good work husband does, that's where we landed. And Trish, I will put a bit more detail in an email to, and Kelly can have it that way in the notes so that you guys all have that in one place.
Okay, thanks, Rachel.
Yep.
Um, so I'd like to talk a little bit more about our discussion of transitioning the coaching, excuse me, the district supervisor meetings that are for implementation science into coaching circles. Um, and that would be more, honestly, more of the same. We could bring our first audios to that. So, so after the training to support kind of our own skills and to really understand and help with understanding the dynamics of coaching circles and coaching itself, I think we would propose to create 4 teams out of this group, led by myself, Jake, Dana, and Rachel, and break us up into 4 teams and go through like a coaching circle with a client. And I would pick up a client myself and do audios myself as well, to really, really dig in and understand what it is that we're coaching to others. And I think I kind of already went through the reasons after Renee had asked the question about why we would do that. It's pretty tough to just say, here, go start coaching circles when you kind of haven't seen it, when you haven't experienced it. It takes a lot of the mystery out of it. I know some people are already doing it, but I'm hoping that there's a very, just like anywhere else, my skills might be in one area and someone else's might be in another to help support each other, and bring together a group of people with of various skills and various perspectives to really help to implement this in your own districts. So we would propose to start that well, after the training's done. So would that be February or March sometime? Is that fair? Thoughts about that? everybody's just going like, holy shit, are you really doing this? Or what are we? So nobody wants to say anything. Brian?
There is my hand. Um, I hate to say it, Carter, but this is some of that culture talk that I think we need to hang on for just a little bit. Um, some of us in here are pretty secure with going through that model without issue. It's probably more of the nervous anxiety energy that's going to be coming out here, and us helping our peers as a DS to DS is one thing that some of us can do, but I think Renee's question just kind of touches the surface of the feel of this, in all honesty, is maybe instead of this just being like, hey, this is what's coming up, how do I say this the right way? Maybe provide the why, the vision, the extra information that might settle some of the nerves that are out there right now with this, because a lot of folks haven't been through the tape process in many, many years. Explaining why would we want to do it with our client versus giving our agents feedback on some of their sessions with their client. I don't know. I'm just kind of trying to prop it up there so that the culture piece is taken care of on this kind of heavy piece that's going to be coming along.
Yeah, those are good questions. I think the why I kind of touched on a little bit, at least.
You
I think
did.
It's I think we had a really good, robust discussion about where's our time best spent. And I think that with with our limited, we're all stretched thin. Like we're limited resource. What can we do one-on-one coaching with every one of our staff? And are we all confident enough? And can we to go through the roadmap? And can we all learn and show our staff that, hey, I'm doing this too. Like I'm learning alongside of you, as well as I'm embracing the idea of being a lifelong learner. I think that people in this room are going to be in some ways no different than the staff that we're asking to do the same, right? And so are we going to ask our staff to do something that we're not willing to do? And that's kind of where I have always kind of come from, I guess, as far as is like when Holly just Holly, why don't you say that out loud?
Or I started typing and I probably should have just raised my hand, but
Good.
yeah. Yeah, I'm just as I'm digesting all this, and that's why I didn't speak up before. I was just kind of listening and kind of digesting, and like what I'm thinking in my head is I like that uncomfortableness that we're feeling, or I'm feeling, I should say, is I think it's going to lend credibility to what we're asking our agents to do. Because sharing with them that we are all going through the case planning training, that we are participating in coaching circles, that we're practicing our skills in coaching them with our peers, like some of that stuff I think just will lend itself to, I think it could help buy-in. I think it will help make sure that we're all kind of coaching similarly. I mean, we all have our own styles and like how we present things and what have you, but I don't think there's, I mean, aside from a handful of people that will be case planning trainers, I don't think there's any case planning experts in this room. And so like having the support of one another to help support the agents that are doing the work, I guess I'm thinking that would be helpful as well. Um, I think that's kind of where I'm going. I think it just is going to lend its credibility, although like preparing an audio and putting, with a client, like yeah, that's like a little kind of nuancy okay, what client am I going to pick? You know, that sort of thing. Like, how am I going to like jump in and do that? Like, that's kind of clunky because I don't have one that's assigned to me currently, but those are all technical things. I think it's the adaptive stuff that's getting me. So,
Thank you.
yep.
Jenny?
I kind of feel the same way as Holly. Recently I did do, and it's not out there yet, but we've been working on the SO roadmap, and I met with a client, who, because we were down an agent for a while, and I met with the client, and I'm like, you know what, I'm just gonna pull this out and I'm just gonna see how it kind of flows. And to be real honest, I hadn't used, one of the maximizing strengths carry guides before. And so it was kind of like, but it was good to see how it worked, what went well, how I could look back at it and think, okay, I might have done this a little bit differently. Um, and I have talked to agents in the past on normative feedback, and I've told them, like, this is what I find myself doing, like getting caught in that. This is an assessment tool that we use to determine how often you're going to need to be met with, which really that's not what it is, but that's what that's what I had been saying for years, because that's kind of what we've been doing, and we weren't really case planning around their high risk, high need areas. And so I think when agents are seeing that, and I think again, when agents are seeing that we're doing this too, that we're not just coming in and telling them, oh, I would have done this differently, when they're like, really, you don't even do this.
Right on.
I think, and I think it'll be helpful for me to actually coach, like, okay, that went well for me, or that really didn't go well for me. And what skills can I build to help build my agent skills? Does that make sense?
Does.
So, am I excited to do a tape? It's been a long time. But I get the why, and I think it makes sense.
Thank you. Paula?
A lot of my COPs for a while were tapes on agents giving normative feedback. And so when I threw out that word tape, because I got the same response that you're getting,
Yep.
I told them that I would be part of it too. So one month I did a tape on normative feedback.
But
It's not fun, but whatever. It is what it is. So I just want to make it clear for this, what am I going to be doing a tape basically on number 3 of the roadmap with someone? Just want to make sure.
I would say I would say we start with the beginning of the roadmap and we do coaching circles. And by the time we get to the end of it, it might be 2 or 3 years later. This is going to go, nope. If you have 5 people in a coaching circle, every 5 months, you'll bring one. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So if I'm meeting with somebody, I'm doing a tape on starting on number 1.
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to.
Well, I would say you're starting on engagement. You're not going to do. I think number 1 is like a PSI.
Okay. So basically the number 3 on the roadmap.
I don't have it in front of my face, but yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. I just want to make sure I'm going to do the tape on the right thing. So.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah.
Yes, I have the roadmap in front of me, and number 3 is engagement.
Okay.
So that's where you would be starting.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see who is next.
Willie is
Willie?
next, and then Tessa.
And I feel the same way as everybody else. I hate the sound of my own voice, hate listening to the tape of mine. But what I'm excited about this is we're getting coaching circles rolling in our district. And to do a coaching circle with the other supervisors, I sort of feel like that's a safe space to practice what a coaching circle is too. So I think that's going to help us when we're rolling coaching circles out to everybody else, is that we get that extra experience of being in more and seeing what it looks like from a different perspective. So I think it's just going to help our process overall. Jared and I are going to be in each of the coaching circles we've got 2 in Buffalo and then 1 in Roxas. So we're going to be a part of those as well and bring our own tapes. So it's sort of like we're getting 2 birds with 1 stone, because we'll have tapes for these. We could use similar tapes in the other sessions as well.
Exactly. You can use the tapes in your own coaching circles and your own Yeah. Before Tessa, I just wanted to clarify. I think the idea then would be to sunset the other DS meeting to have, so it would be a time, hopefully like a time neutral thing. So there'd be only one DS meeting a month, and then the other one the team, the coaching circles would meet whenever you wanted to meet. You know, it could be that same time since you already have it carved out, but it could be any time. So Tessa.
Um, so I'm looking for clarification. So the tape is actually on the four-step process, but we're doing step one using the roadmap.
I gotta get through. We're doing it on engagement.
So the roadmap is our guide,
Yes.
but if we're using the tool to score us, right?
Yes. Yep.
Which is the four-step process. So we're actually working on the four-step process.
Yes.
Using the roadmap as our guide.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
Same things you're doing in Center City. Same deal. Yep.
So I see in the notes just that Dana had asked, and I'm sure other people have that question, how do we actually tape ourselves? And Paula was saying I use my phone. But I do know that there is some documentation on that. Do you remember, Rachel, we had that for when we did that DOC coaching pilot like about 5 million years ago. So I could take a look at that. Maybe we can make sure that goes in the notes too about the details, just for those of you who haven't done it, maybe just saying I use my phone isn't necessarily everything, because it depends on what kind of phone you have too, if you have an iPhone or an Android or what have you.
Yeah, we'll provide, I mean, as part of the training, just like we do for the agents, we'll provide all of those details around, the best practice in recording and how to get the information to us and all of that. And because we're all like internal, it's really easy to share. Like if it's a recorded Zoom session or something like that, just dropping it in a Teams chat or something and not having to worry about, not pressing play and record at the same time. Yeah, it's pretty easy to share. So the phone isn't always the best, just because sometimes, like, I'm pointing my finger at Kelly Blake because I know that she won't care. Sometimes, like, you yourself don't know how to get it off of your phone to get it onto your computer, right? Like, I don't know how to help you with that part of
That's
it.
why we had Becca. She helped me.
Yeah. But if your phone is your option, it's your option, and you'll just have to figure out how to upload it to your computer, because doing this thing where you like play it and then hold it up to your speaker, like 9 out of 10 times we can't hear what everybody's saying and we're trying to review it and then you wasted your time. So
Just a heads up on your phone. If you do receive a phone call during your taping will stop. And you'll continue on with your session and you'll only have 2 minutes of it.
Oh,
Sounds
no.
like you might know that from experience.
Lesson learned many times.
You're
Yeah.
muted, Rachel.
Leave her on mute there. She doesn't know yet.
Rachel, you were
you're
muted, so you were emphatically making a point that
anything.
I think might have been missed.
No, your point was good. It was good.
Yes. You had a lot of times to practice it now. No, say it right this time.
sorry. I'm like even gesturing and everything. If you do, like, you can do like your focus, like your do not disturb or your airplane mode or whatever, I think will block calls from coming in.
Oh, okay. Good enough.
I just leave mine on airplane mode all the time.
That's your advice to Jarrett.
Yeah, this is more advice. Walls 2028.
All right. Okay, moving on then. Or does anything else about that? Now that Dale cleared the air. Or loaded it, however you want to say it. Non-negotiables. And so I've started to, in our all calls, I'm started to kind of go through the roadmap and really kind of shed some light on it. We've yet to adopt the one for sex offenders, but we will soon. And when we do, I want to make sure that I'm communicating and supporting the non-negotiables as well as the roadmap. And so I guess I'd ask you, do you want to go over the non-negotiables again? Do you want to see them? Do you want me to send them out again, or how do you want to do that today? If you don't, that's fine. I just kind of wanted to ask the questions. Has everybody communicated the non-negotiables to their staff? How are you doing it? And then how can I support it and help on the all calls or emails or other ways? And then kind of when I start to talk more directly about this process, should I start doing that now? I think I would prefer to make sure that all the district supervisors have. Jenny says, can you send them back out so I can put them on my OneNote? Yep, I'll send them right now in a second. I guess, I can start to, I think it's a really bad idea for me to outline them and if they haven't heard them in their district, and how they're doing that. So Deb, please go ahead.
I think it's always just a good reminder somehow to bring it into the all staff meetings all the time. I mean, you hear it more often that versus once. Do you know what I mean? I think it just
for sure
resonates, like following up. Well, last time we spoke, we talked about the roadmap and and the non-negotiables. We're going to continue this process. I mean, just something like reminders or bullets or whatever. I mean, I don't think it's a bad thing to keep it back in our minds all the time.
No, I'm just wondering, like, as a course of action, as far as like timelines, like I'm wondering if has everybody communicated them so it's like not a surprise. So they're like, oh, what's this? You know what I mean? Like, yep, I'm totally willing and able to do that. I'm just wondering, when should I start doing that? Has everybody kind of communicated those things? I can certainly weave them in or be very direct about it or whatnot. I just kind of wanted to hear how you think that I should start doing that and when, if that makes sense. And I'll send that out right this second.
Go ahead, Holly.
Okay, so I have not, I mean, I think I've communicated some, but I don't think I've said like this is kind of Carter's vision or this is his non-negotiables or so I don't know what others think, but I almost feel like that probably could be helpful is just in your new role, Carter, like kind of picking up where Al left off and kind of some of that, like just broader things that to me that helps me message this to staff, echoing what you say or echoing kind of what your or our non-negotiables are. I don't know. Um, and unless your vision is for us to kind of communicate this and you echo what we're saying. That's
my thought.
Okay.
That's my initial thought is that so that they're not hearing it and then I can be more specific and direct about it. Like, I don't want to beat around the bush. I don't want to say, I think it'd be great if everybody was doing this. I'm like, well, if it's non-negotiable, it really should be more direct. Like, this is absolutely the direction that we're going. And I don't know that they want it. I don't want to hear that on an all call. But I mean, I certainly can. I just don't think it's a really good idea, but I don't know.
I have a staff meeting in December and I'm sure I could figure out a way to kind of talk about this in my own way, but I don't know how to do that or if people are doing it office by office or individually or how this is being messaged. I haven't done this before. So any suggestions or guidance is helpful.
Holly, you've got the skills to drive that conversation.
Okay.
You absolutely do. And leaving that, just bringing those pieces out as to asking those questions of how they can make these things work, allow them to get to the point of, yeah, this is a non-negotiable without you saying it's non-negotiable. You do very well with that.
Dana, thank you.
I'm wondering if we can talk a little bit about, I think it's like the second bullet, everybody's expectation to be doing group COG. Because so I get it, I'm just wondering the practicality of it and like what does that mean? Because I think a lot of agents are going to ask about that, especially if you don't have COG groups going in areas.
Yep.
So what does that actually mean? Like, um, every single agent, even if you have a task agent, how do I get trained? How long do I have before I have to actually do this? Like all of that. Can we just talk about some of that? Because I know it will come up.
Yep, for sure. This is what I would suggest, but we can talk. I mean, I'm open to whatever. I mean, just because they're non-negotiable doesn't mean it starts like freaking tomorrow. Like everybody has their implementation teams or their meeting or their planning, and just like anything, like we're doing right here, it's not like all things start at one time. It's like I'm going to start working on coaching circles next because that's where I have my energy going right now. And in however long that takes, that's where my I'm just making this up. Like that's where my time's going right now. And then, you know, I need to get some people trained. And so that's where my energy's going then is to start getting people trained. And we're going to start with two people. I mean, you know what I mean? It's like as long as we're kind of playing off the same sheet of music, like I don't, it's going to take some time to get, this is going to take a long time. It's just as long as we're going in the same direction. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Are we going to have the opportunity to have additional options for COG? So like moving on or driving with care. And I think about the DPS grant, and how that would fit with that. And, if they can be offered virtually, it doesn't have to be, all the people
Yep,
in one area that are doing it.
totally.
And then my other question is, when we talk about the non-negotiables or however you want to frame that, um, I mean, they're really field services non-negotiables, right? I mean, they're not Carter's non-negotiables, and I don't know that we want to present it that way.
Mhm.
I think it like it's all of ours. Like, it's our entire unit's
The,
guiding
the,
principles, really,
the
We've
best
been
right?
way to
vetting.
say it, Dana, if you want to make change with people, these components are non-negotiable. It's not
Yeah,
Carter.
I love that. That's a
Right.
great way to put it. And
Right.
it's
I just want to make sure that like we
Yep,
don't throw it out there as this is just Carter, because then it's,
don't
people
do
don't like
that.
that coming from the
Yes,
top.
yes.
Right.
I'm so glad that you said that because we've been vetting this. We've been talking about this for really years. And just to brush them up, we've been talking about this since July. Like, I don't know, so it's not like we just they dropped out of the sky and we didn't take a look at them. So
I think that's
um
some good advice for Jared to always blame everything that doesn't come off good with the agents on Carter.
love it. Best advice ever. Willie's next, I think.
Just going off of what Dana was talking about with COG and opportunities. So I'll jump in and give a quick plug. We're going to have Thinking for a Change train the trainer opportunity in Buffalo in spring. So if you have anybody who would like to become a facilitator of facilitators for Think for a Change, let me know and we can get them on the list. Just one thing, the application will come out and it's going to say that you need to be an active facilitator. They're going to bend those rules for us. So for example, if somebody was in the past, but they've been doing decision points for a year, they can still apply and just shoot like a mock video of themselves training. They don't have to be doing an active course. So don't let that dissuade anybody from not signing up if they'd like to be a facilitator for that. And then Jake and I are also working on getting UCCI to come out and train just facilitators for core adult. So that could be another option for programming. If folks wanted to become facilitators for areas.
Yep. Good. Thanks, Willie. Kelly.
Going back to the discussion about this being like Carter's directives, I honestly think with the work that, at least in my area, that we've been doing with implementation, I don't know how it would come across as just being Carter's directive, because I feel like what we've been doing is really supporting that, all of us supporting that. So if agents are taking that this is just something that Carter stands behind, I think that's kind of crazy.
And I appreciate the way that you put that because it really does highlight my reluctance in like me coming out with it first. And then like, okay. And then if the district super, well, I guess we got to do, not that you'd say it that way, but it might come across like, I don't know. I'd be just really reluctant to come about it that way. So is there,
Yeah,
oh, and
I would just
go ahead.
add that, we've had a discussion at one of our district meetings. And one of the things that I think I was really quick to point out is we are doing a lot of those things already. This isn't
Yes.
a big lift or a big change or a switch in direction. And once they kind of like started to look at that, I'm like, hey, here's how we're doing these things already. People kind of settled down and there really wasn't much kickback or anything.
Yeah, that totally makes a ton of sense. That's true. Deb says ditto. I want to point on Mark's ask about safety, and I think we train and we do a lot of extra things. Here's my thought about COG, and it's not about I'm doing this or the other. It's really about what's a core expectation. Well, it is an expectation, but what's the core skill set of an agent. And I think one of the best ways to teach and to understand is to facilitate some sort of cog, but honestly. And so I don't, I mean, I think everybody appreciates everything that's going on as far as safety and uh, um, response resistance and whatnot. But I think that I'd really like people to be doing some sort of a cognitive behavioral group program and contribute to it. Because once you start to get into the tit for tat as far as doing that, and somebody else is going to say, yeah, but I'm doing this as well, and I'm doing this. It's like, if we define the core, I think that's got to just be ubiquitous across the whole board. Everybody does a lot. That's just the bottom line. Probably way too much. I mean, we all know it. We're understaffed and we don't have the time and the staff to do the things that we need to do. So how do we get creative to have group programming? How do we, like the coaching circles as opposed to individual coaching? So, and it's kind of been the name of the game. Deb, sorry.
So like Mark put in this discussion about other trainings, I have 2 people in my district trained as MRT. Can I do that?
Yeah, I don't see why not. I don't know. I I have this like thought that we should all be doing decision points as like a base.
We do
But
have
if it
that.
yeah, but if it doesn't, but if you have that and something, yeah, great. I don't know. And where that kind of comes from is like what have I just said? It's like agents really need to start thinking in that risk needs responsivity mindset and be able to react and like, okay, I see that you have a risk situation. I'm gonna react to that. But if they're doing that, especially MRT is wonderful for that anyway.
I hate to lose that skill if you already have it.
For sure. Oh,
And if we're
absolutely.
already doing decision points throughout the district already, this is just one other COG program.
MRT is I really enjoy MRT, quite honestly. Kelly.
Maybe this is too big of a topic for today, but any talk about being able to have some of our former clients help with facilitation of decision points?
Oh my.
I
Yes.
know. I'd
I
love
have
it.
one too. I have one that wants to do it. He still went when he was done.
Facilities are doing it. I think
It's worth a look.
I don't see where that's in line with what's already happening now.
One of my agents that's involved with the MRRA said it was a very heated discussion in his meeting about incarcerated people assisting.
Oh, really?
Well, it's called peer support, and that peer support model is very, very researched, and it's a very effective tool. It's
And
a
how do well, I
great
don't
thing
think
to
the
do.
opinions were based, the negative opinions were based on research.
Exactly.
Well, the other
Huh.
thing is how do we get them the training? Like I'm much like Kelly, I'm thinking about it because this gentleman is off supervised release now, but he attended and even when he was done with the program and wants to facilitate, and the best part about it is he is a Mille Lacs band member and it would be really awesome for him to
Huh.
go
So
facilitate.
yeah, I mean, if you think about it, I mean, if they train a full year, and let's just say we do an annual plan, so that's a $5,000 up, that's the max. And that's close to $100 that they would receive. I mean, if we're going to pay them to do that, um, they would receive $100 per training session, so close to $50 an hour. That's not bad for a day's work. I mean, for an IP or whomever to come in and help facilitate that. I don't think we could sustain a lot of those, budgetarily, but I think it's really a good idea.
Well, I think
Um,
it's they just want to be trained. They don't want money to do the.
but I think we should be thinking about compensation too. I don't think we should not put that on the table as well.
I think it's a great idea. It didn't even transfer in my mind that, because I know they're doing it in the facilities. And Rachel suggested it is going very well. Huh? Okay. I think it's a great idea.
So I just I would challenge that needing to compensate thing. Because I'm just thinking like if people are with MRRA and earned compliance credit and stuff, part of it is demonstrating that they have internalized all the stuff, right, to earn off of supervision. And so is that an incentive to do that, or is the incentive that I'm getting paid to do it? Like the only reason I would challenge that thinking a little bit. Like, do they want to
Oh,
do it just because they want to do it
I'm thinking
and
former
give
clients.
back?
I'm thinking former clients.
Where do we get that money?
Yeah, I was thinking like former clients that would come in and maybe do that.
Oh, okay.
And yes, agents are compensated for delivering the course because we pay them hourly already. Um, but just looking at Mark's comment, but I just think if that's something to consider. If we're having, I'm thinking former client Dana. I wasn't thinking like existing
Oh, okay.
client. If it
Okay.
pertains to MRRA and that's part of that abatement process that they would earn, yeah, I think we would comp the cost of the facilitator training to bring them in to provide it.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I'm just thinking,
That, yeah.
that's why I say let's put that on the table, but I don't think that's an expectation we have to always go with as well.
Huh. Yeah, if we can have more programming and I can't imagine there'd be more buy-in than a former client that's facilitating the damn thing and understands it and can come up with their own stories. And holy shit, that would be wonderful. Okay.
Make it
I
happen.
will I will look into it. I don't know. I don't know why not. So, okay. This brings me to my last question again. It's kind of firming up a time where I can start to be a little bit more pointed as far as expectations or non-negotiables. When do you think would be a good time to start that? Basically that, but Jake is talking, but I think you're muted. You're unmuted. Or weren't you talking?
I wasn't talking. I was
Oh, you
itching.
weren't talking. I
I was
thought you were
itching.
saying.
I was itching my lip.
I know for
Carter?
us, Bart. Oh, go ahead,
Oh,
Deanna.
I was just going to ask, could we just go around and see how many have actually presented or started talking about them first, so we kind of have a pulse on where we're at?
I was going to say, you're probably going to find that we're already into it,
Well,
Yeah, I would
like
agree,
pretty
Brian.
heavily.
Yeah. We may
This is
have
like old school now.
yep. I just wanted to make sure.
I have talked about some of it, but not all of it. Because I was short-staffed and so I haven't created what's it called?
Like an implementation team.
Yeah,
type
I
thing?
don't have an
Yeah.
implementation team, but the COG group stuff, the medium and high risk all need to be referred to group, that kind of stuff we've already implemented.
Yeah, and Jenny, like to our earlier point, like it doesn't have to. I mean, you can go over this stuff and it doesn't have to happen like that day. It's just, yeah, that's awesome. Great. Okay. Is there anybody that suggests that I can't start to incorporate this into
Already
the
shared the roadmap and I've already said this is what we're moving towards down the road. You're doing it now. This is just laying it out there for you all to see because sometimes people have different learning styles and this just lays it out nice for you.
Yeah.
And so
I was
I'm
I
already
was in
aware of it.
awesome. I was in Holly's district yesterday, and I would suggest that I don't know, 8 out of 9 agents had it on their wall already and referred to it and said they're starting. And I'm like, holy cow, this is great. So
I do like Dana's or whoever had the idea of this as a field service because I'm not gonna lie, we did roll it out there and introduced it as, Carter sent this out to us, but I agree it's probably shouldn't be a Carter deal, but I do feel like the more you can support us, management can support us in rolling that out, the better, just because I also don't want it to think like it's a Marshall District idea either. So as long as it's field services, I think it's great. And we've already started to roll it out. The sooner you can start piecing that in as us would be a big benefit, I think.
excellent. This is great. I just didn't want to start blasting it out there and then somebody's like, hey, you're gonna freak my people out. I haven't talked about it yet. So okay, excellent. Does anybody have anything else before it's 12:28? I think we're done in 2 minutes, and I want to respect your time. Holly. All right.
Are we not talking about the last item though?
I don't think we got time. I'll
Okay.
I'll just refer that to the next time. We'll just
Okay.
kick that up. That isn't time sensitive necessarily right this second. So
Okay.
Good. All right. Take care, everybody. Welcome, Jared. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Take care.
All right.